But do Americans give President Obama the credit? On the left, Van Jones. On the right, Newt Gingrich. In the Crossfire, Representative Barbara Lee, a California Democrat, and Representative Andy Harris, a Maryland Republican. Is President Obama fixing the U.S. economy or holding it back? Tonight on Crossfire.
Welcome to Crossfire. I am Van Jones on the left.
I'm Newt Gingrich on the right. In the Crossfire tonight, two different views on today's big jobs report. Just a few hours ago, President Obama had the audacity to begin his news conference by patting himself on the back for today's supposedly stellar jobs report.
First, as president, my top priority is doing everything that we can to create more jobs and opportunity for hardworking families, for our economic strength as a source of strength in the world.
So let me get this straight. Somewhere between the Asian pivot, the Ukrainian crisis, and his meeting with Angela Merkel, the president wants us to believe his top priority is whatever the latest news story is. Anybody who goes out in this economy and brags has every worried American asking, what planet are you living on? The answer is Planet Obama. U.S. economic growth in the first quarter was 0.1%. After 5 years of Obama's mismanagement, only bureaucrats and billionaires are doing well. All of the rest are just left out. Now, don't you think that's right?
No. And look, first of all, no good deed goes unpunished in this country. We have 50 months of job creation. This man, it's 9 million jobs have been created, and we got the best report in years, and we get this kind of stuff. Listen, in the Crossfire tonight, we've got two members of the House Appropriations Committee, Democratic Representative Barbara Lee of Oakland, California, welcome to you, and Republican Representative Andy Harris of Maryland, both in the Crossfire. And I'm going to start with you. I cannot believe that the Republicans, even today, are not willing to at least give this president some credit. Ronald Reagan, in 1987, had 6.3% unemployment, and you guys call him a hero. We got 6.3% unemployment today. How many airports are you going to name after President Obama, given his performance so far?
Well, considering that the labor force participation rate is the lowest in decades, and honestly, isn't that what this is all about, is how many people are actually participating in the labor force? Look, you know, they tell me in the eye of a hurricane, weather looks pretty good. That's what we're in. We had one piece of good news amidst all the bad news of this economy, low economic growth, 0.1% GDP growth. The only thing that was good about that, I guess, is that Obamacare raised health care spending 9.9% in the first quarter. No wonder GDP went up. We bent the health care cost spending way up.
This is going to be a very hot show. I'm going to let my Congresswoman from Oakland put you straight, and then I'm coming. Go ahead.
I can't even believe this. You know, first of all, during the shutdown, we lost 1.6 million jobs.
Thank you.
So you got to remember that. Secondly, when President Bush left office, can you remember how many jobs we were losing each and every month? Thirdly, we were on the brink of one of the greatest depressions ever. And President Obama turned this around. And so, come on, you got to give him some credit. I mean, we haven't gotten to where, especially in communities of color, where we need to get. But when you look at the fact that, yes, there are 800,000 people who have just dropped out of the labor force, but you know what, Newt? We can't even extend unemployment compensation so they can get the unemployment compensation so they don't fall off of the brink and over the edge.
I mean, you're a Californian. You made the point that you've got far too low an employment rate, particularly for minorities, particularly for teenage minorities. And yet, the difference in unemployment between California and North Dakota, California has more than 3 times as many people unemployed as a percent of population as does North Dakota. And you just saw Toyota announce that they're taking over 7,000 high-paying jobs out of California to Texas, which, of course, makes Rick Perry very happy. I mean, isn't there a lesson here about high taxes and high regulation and expensive government that maybe we should be paying attention to?
No, because let me tell you, California, first of all, is one of the most innovative states, is the most innovative states in the country. Secondly, we have a lot of high tech, but we haven't had the workforce investment from the Congress, which we've been trying to pass, to invest in workforce training and education so that people who have been unemployed, especially under the Bush economic policies and during that era, they haven't been able to get the workforce training and the type of skills training that's requisite for these new jobs that exist now.
And to you, Congressman, this is the kind of stuff that used to be bipartisan. She's talking about investing in American workers. The other thing used to be bipartisan was investing in American infrastructure. I want to show you something happening in your state. Let's just roll this tape. This is the kind of stuff that's happening across the country. Look at this.
Oh my God.
This is a street falling into a river, and people screaming and watching that go down. Why? Because across the country, we're not investing enough in American infrastructure, and Republicans won't work with Democrats to do that. Why aren't you guys reaching across to support the president with infrastructure investment?
Let's remember...
That's real job creation.
Let's remember who controls that jurisdiction. It's been run by Democrats for decades, with complaints about that street for 5 years in the administration.
And the Highway Trust Fund, which stopped this from happening in your state and across the country, is about to run out of money in September. Why won't Republicans help Americans get good jobs stopping this type of stuff?
We need, the Speaker's right. We need good jobs. We need good jobs doing things like building the Keystone XL pipeline, removing all the barriers to making this an energy economy. The unemployment rate, we set the bar pretty darn low if this is a great employment report. When Reagan's recovery, we had 1 million jobs created, not 200-some
That
thousand.
picture is so amazing. I have to ask, because you made a point that we hadn't covered earlier, which is, shouldn't the current governor of Maryland have been aware of that street?
The mayor, the governor, the entire the complaints were for 5 years that things were happening.
You guys want to blame this one mayor, this one governor. We had all the American
Republicans on that.
The civil engineers have looked across this country. They gave Americans a report card at the beginning of this year of a D+ for infrastructure. That's a global embarrassment. That's real job creation. You guys aren't helping. Why not? Why won't you work with this?
Well, what do we want? Do we want another stimulus?
Yes, let me tell you,
really?
we do need the
PolitiFact said 7%.
The Recovery Act, which no Republican voted for.
The shovel-ready jobs?
We definitely saved millions of jobs. We invested in infrastructure, and people kept working or were rehired on infrastructure projects. The president's put forward the American Recovery Act. Infrastructure investment. Can't even get that passed.
You're offering a very enthusiastic defense. But I have... You
The
believe it?
facts speak for themselves.
I know
Facts
you
speak
believe
for
it.
themselves.
But let me ask you, didn't it bother you a little bit when the president said, these shovel-ready jobs weren't ready? Remember that statement?
No,
when he said,
7%. 7%
it turned out
shovel-ready jobs.
But let me ask you about a different problem that is going to affect jobs in America. Because I think all of us are concerned that if you look even at the jobs created in the last month in that report, too many of them are low-paying jobs. What we're not seeing is the return of high-paying jobs. And there's a report out this week that because of the U.S. tax code, Pfizer, our biggest pharmaceutical company, may literally move its headquarters to London in order to get under the British tax code. And it's hard for me to realize that the British tax code could be that much better than the American tax code. But doesn't this call for maybe taking a serious look at rethinking the tax code so American companies and other companies have a real incentive to invest here, rather than literally thinking about moving offshore?
Well, let me tell you, I've always supported tax fairness, and we need to stop providing tax incentives for companies to site offshore, because that's how American jobs are lost. Secondly, when you look at income inequality, you're looking at CEO compensation that's unheard of, off the scale. And in fact, now we're looking at this huge wage gap between CEOs, their salaries and low-wage workers, and it's continuing. The gap is continuing. And also, finally, I just have to say on this point, you look at the subsidies which taxpayers are paying to corporations to pay low-wage workers, $7.10, $7.25 an hour, $243 billion. The federal government, taxpayers, are subsidizing corporations because people are poor. They have to apply and live off of food stamps, Medicaid, Section 8, while they're working full time. And taxpayers are subsidizing corporations so these CEOs can make these mega billion-dollar salaries, and these people need some help. In other words, raising the minimum wage.
You're going to lead us right into the next segment. I'm going to let my
exactly. In fact, when we get back, I want to make sure that you know about the most radical Republican idea yet, because it is really, really stupid. And you're going to get a hint about how dumb it is by taking a look at the Crossfire quiz. My Republican friends like to pretend like only a handful of teenagers earn minimum wage. How many American